Hi, it's Dr. Rimka. Thank you for coming to the channel. As usual, if you find value in this video and any other videos, please subscribe to the channel. It is a free way you can support my work, and also hit that like button as you start watching if you enjoy this video and found value. If you really like it, you want your friends to see it and the algorithm to like this type of information, go ahead and hit share. Welcome, everybody. My name is Dr. Rimka, and I'm going to go over a pretty comprehensive overview of the autonomic nervous system and the biology of trauma. And I'm going to couple that with my unique approach that focuses on how to recover from trauma, to truly heal from it, which involves using the pathway of embodiment, which is through sensation. And I think ultimately the magical superpower that most of us are not using. This might ruffle a few feathers. This will go contrary to some of the mainstream thinking about trauma. And we're going to go beyond just the mental aspect and encompass more of the physical. I'm not going to go deep into the energetic or spiritual aspect in this lecture. I do that in other ones. All right, so this is how to empower and embody. Embodiment is a key word here. This is basically your overall guide to recognizing and releasing stored trauma and everything that kind of goes into it, and really why it is you're stopping your healing. First, we have to go through what is stress and what is trauma, how is it defined, and explaining it in terms of the nervous system, the physical somatic response the body has. What we need to understand is that first, stress and trauma are primarily non-cognitive. This is outside of the traditional way of looking at it. Talk therapy is using the cognitive therapy approach of talking about something that happened. So if you have to put words to something, that means it's cognitive. Well, it's really hard to recover from something if you're trying to use a method to approach it that is not based in how the body or the biology is addressing it. So it's what we know. We're used to words, but it's not really working, and it's why talk therapy alone has failed many people. It can teach you coping skills, but to cope with something means you must live with it forever. To heal it means you integrate it and you move on. So these things are housed within the autonomic nervous system. These are primitive, non-conscious, non-cognitive, and non-verbal. You are not controlling these things, and that's a good thing. You don't have to think about breathing, heart rate, things of that nature. Okay, that's what is covered by the autonomic nervous system: your heart rate, your body temperature, how your pupils dilate, your breathing, oxygen levels in the blood, digestion, hormones, thousands and thousands of functions that are going on beneath your cognitive control. Deeply influenced your nervous system. This autonomic or automatic nervous system is deeply influences all of your body sensations, your emotional states, how you see yourself, the sense of self, your sense of others, and the sense of the world. What we want you to understand, what I want you to understand, is that stress and trauma symptoms are normal. They are adaptive, and they are survival responses to threat. This is ordered. This is not disordered. We have taken something the body does normally and given it a label of a disorder. It is the ultimate in gaslighting and creating a world of victims, thinking the body is broken and is deranged and is working against you. That is the lie we need to destroy. All right, so a threat is anything that happens that's going to then cause, if there's any threat, anything physical, emotional, psychological, the nervous system reacts. It causes it. It just does it unconsciously. Remember? Nonverbal, unconscious, primitive, right? Just happens. And it's a good thing. Many of these reflexes were established in utero. You're not going to change your dominant hand, your dominant eye, your dominant foot. These are reflexes. So here's a great quote my friend says: integration is not optional. Okay. These are the kinds of things that I look at. When it comes to trauma, I'm always looking to address everything, such as mitochondrial health, detoxification, drainage pathways, nervous system resilience itself, as well as the secret superpower I'm going to reveal at the end. Now, in this talk, I'm going to cover the cell danger response theory, Look at nutrient deficiencies that are a part of the detoxification story. Is it nutrient deficiencies that led to a toxin building up, or was it a toxin that led to the nutrient deficiency? Chicken versus the egg. They're usually going hand in hand. It doesn't really matter. The drainage pathways, we're going to talk about fascia and the fascial tensegrity, as well as the calcium shell in trauma theory that's been established. Nervous system resilience is primarily what I've specialized in for over 20 years, and I've been adding these new layers in there because they're all important. You can't address the nervous system unless you're aware of mitochondria and how toxins affect it and what the nutrients are and how the nerves are running through the fascia and the muscle, right? So in there, we'll also bring in polyvagal theory a little bit. And I won't go into any of these too deep, but it's the overview of how things are synergistically working together and why you want to look at so many things at the same time and understand doing this in a linear fashion is probably not ever going to yield the result upon which you want. So if you've been working on this, but you've been working on one thing at a time and you didn't address this and you want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is most likely why it didn't work. And you're still just trying to cope with trauma instead of having it integrated, healed, and moved on and let go. And here's a secret superpower I will reveal at the very end. And to me, it is trauma's opposing force that is almost completely ignored and definitely then highly underutilized by clinicians everywhere. So the way I'm going to look at everything, looking at the microcosm to the macrocosm from inside the cell, we're looking at the health of the cell. This is my model of how I see the human system in every single patient that walks in my office. And I'm going to look at from the mitochondria is really the core of the cell. And that is, it's creating the water that's inside there, the electromagnetic pulse, right? It is life force. It is the beginning of the charge. And so as strong as your electromagnetic capacity, your battery is, that's the vitality and health level that you have. As it goes down, your capacity is drained and you don't have the energy to heal. I address sound, light, magnetism, electricity, all of these, and they all lead to each other. You are generating these things as well as absorbing these things. So these are nutrients as well as byproducts and creations of you. So you're creating your own biofeedback, bioresonance that's healing yourself all the time. So we use a lot of devices and measurements to say, well, what level are you and what do you need? And how can we support that with adding sound, light, water, magnetism, electricity into the system. That is not a supplement. This is the foundation of what you are. Many people want to think about a pill, and that is high level, like super high level compared to what we're going to do. I would get much more done if I could help people with sound, light, electricity than I can with pills, potions, and lotions. From there is where we create the fascia and its tensegrity, lymphatic flow, and the gel water, the structured water. Fascia and lymph are pretty much one and the same. Lymph is pretty much liquid fascia. Think of it that way. And the gel water is the crystalline structure of communication and organization in between everything. And it's also your kind of toxin barrier, keeps things out. So the more of that you have, the better off you are. Then from there, we go into these other processes of looking at how stress, trauma, unintegrated emotions, the subconscious self-image or scripts, and your heart-brain coherence, heart rate variability, and things of that nature play into it. I'm looking at all of these and addressing these in every single visit. Sometimes we have to spend a lot of time in the middle. Sometimes we're on the outside. But if you're only trying to do the outside, that's all you've ever done, if you've never gone deeper, maybe that's the key, right? So picture this more like a spiral, not a flat circle, and we're going up and down throughout it, trying to create integration in a whole system. All right, this is what I want you to remember, that the biology of trauma is real. You are addressing it whether you realize it or not, right? So we're going to cover the cell danger response, calcium shell, polyvagal theories. And what I'm going to reveal, and I want you to remember that trauma is actually a mitochondrial problem. This is not a mind problem. This is not a weak psychology or a weak character issue, right? Different things that we address, parasites, mold, Bartonella, which is Lyme, one of the, things like that. They're a natural part of our ecosystem. So we can get trauma from medical problems, but I want you to understand that the only reason somebody became ill with these things is because the system was receptive in some way to this happening. I don't like people living in fear of bugs and critters. That is not what we're going for here, but they are important in healing stress and trauma on the body because they're one of the main causes that we go into trauma earlier than maybe we would have if we didn't have to be fighting these things at the same time. Always remember, you don't have to be doing any of this over alone. This was a talk I did for doctors, so you have to know when a doctor or a clinician has to know when something's outside of the scope and to refer to somebody. I'm looking for you, whether you're a patient looking for this, to find partners. Don't expect one doctor, one therapist to be able to do all of these things. That is very, very unusual that I'm trained in so many of these, and I still even work with some specialists in very particular to come in and be very strong anchor points. I do what I do really well, they do what they do really well, and we work together for you. That is how this should be approached, with a team that is communicating to help you. All right. So you really are the medicine which you seek. You are looking at creating sound, light, vibration, whether you're in Kenya, as the Maasai tribe is here, or special need kids in America doing yoga, or the musical group in Siberia that you see on the screen. The jumping dance or the yoga on the grass in the sun, or the cold temperatures and using music. All of these things are just trying to connect you back to nature. Nature is truly holding the key, and everything I'm going to talk about from here on in is just trying to leverage and reproduce nature in maybe a device, a different therapy of some sort. Ultimately, going back to the picture, we are electromagnetic beings of highly organized gelatinous crystalline water. That's the gel water that rhythmically sends out beams of magnetic pulses, sound waves, and light waves 24/7 through our own motion and inborn electromagnetic technology. Okay, so what I like to ask people, every single one of my patients, I'm always looking for, where is their aliveness? On a scale of 1 to 10, where are you? So if you're watching this right now, where are you? 10 is full, life. 0 is dead. So where are you right now? Think about that. This is kind of the scale that I'm using, 0 being death. And I would want you to consider, what is the opposite of death? I'm going to reveal what I think it is at the very end, and it's the key of what is being missed by most clinicians. But over in the 10, most likely we have some love and joy feelings. And at 5, this might be where we have a chronic diagnosis. There might be anger in this situation. And here's everything in between. So lots of doctors are seeing chronically ill people walking around a life force, about 50% often. They'll self-describe themselves. Degenerative diseases that are going in reverse, let's say ALS, Parkinson's, they may be going further down, right? Terminal diagnoses, when somebody's at the end, we might be at a 2 or a 1 as in their own self-reporting level of aliveness. And these are some of the emotions and the things that are associated. So my job is to be checking. Somebody comes in at a 4 or 5, I'm trying to move them up the scale. I'm trying to increase the aliveness, right? So what that is, I specialize in neuroplastic behaviors, and it's really important to know how long has something been in the system, because you are what you repeat over and over again. So if you practice being anxious, you're going to get really good. Neuroplasticity means the brain will adapt to whatever you ask it to do repeatedly. It hardwires itself and to make it more efficient. Nature likes efficiency. So whatever you do repeatedly, the brain is going to make it more efficient for you to do that thing. You practice focusing, the brain gets better at it. You practice distraction, the brain gets better at it. You practice not letting yourself sleep because you're addicted to watching a screen all night to watch shows, you'll get really good at staying up all night and having insomnia. Your brain just does what you keep making it do. So how long something's been in the system is incredibly important. If you've had an issue for 20 years, please have reasonable expectation on how long it's going to take to get rid of something. You've had a problem for 2 weeks, that is much faster to correct than if you've had a problem for 20 years. I hope that's just basic, obvious math. But for patients, it's not. They'll have a 20-year problem, expect 1 to 2 visits, and then they'll give up. And I'm like, that's not logical or fair, correct? So it takes a lot of time, and clinicians have to remember this too. Set up reasonable expectations on how long something's going to take. All right, so now let's get into the actual biology of trauma. And here's the autonomic nervous system map. I'm going to look at like what it kind of looks like. Let's look at the left side is we go up over here and this is activation. As activation goes up, right? That's going to go up the scale, or as threat level goes up, we go this way. So, and we're going to imagine this little ball to be the nervous system. It's like the marble on the track. It always seeks the most stable, relaxed position. And we're going to look at what happens through stress and trauma. So when we have mild stress, so we're down at 0. In a perfect world, we're always in a relaxed parasympathetic nervous system state. The parasympathetic rest and digest and heal is dominant because there's no threats in the system. We're at a 0. Classic example, everybody seems to understand, is a gazelle in Africa on the plain grazing with its whole herd. It's quiet, it's peaceful, it's wonderful. Everybody's energy is down. Suddenly, the herd hears some rustling noise, some branches crack, and sees something off the side of their eyes to the left. Everybody turns, all ears perk up. That is state 1. Why does it do this? The body knows the nervous system is not making a mistake. It increases activation to say, uh-oh, it's going to increase the energy, create a little bit of anxiety, more alertness. This looks like anxiety. It also looks like excitement. This is your kids getting ready to go to Disneyland. They're not anxious. They're excited. Energy is up, right? Also, you can be more irritable. You can get more easily annoyed. Heart rate goes up. Breathing increases. There can be some sleep issues here, right? But it is a normal thing. Those gazelle, the muscles get tight. Breathing changes. The brain gets faster because they need to assess what's about to happen. They're at the top of the hill. Well, then they're like, oh, there's nothing there. We're good. Let's go back to eating. But because there was a little bit of a stimulation in the system, it says, let me not go back to 0, just in case I need to move quickly. So then it creates this burrow, this trough, this little pit there it's a stable place. The nervous system wants to be there to protect you. This isn't a mistake. So in case something were to happen, it takes much less energy now to respond. It's to keep you alive. Not a bad thing, not a disorder. Perfectly ordered and designed to keep you alive. So you were there, you're eating, and then lo and behold, boom, out comes the lion. What happens then? You were at the 1, your body held it. Now you have to go. Lion starts galloping, all of them have to start running. So what would have happened if to any of the gazelle that went to a 0? If the gazelle's nervous system went to a 0, that gazelle's got to go from here to jump to the here, then to keep going up to 2. Everybody else started going. So if you didn't keep yourself in the 1, most likely you're going to die because now we have a real threat. All right. So state 2, high stress. State 2 is called high stress. It's maximum activation. It's very short lived. It's semi-stable. You can see how it goes like a little ledge right there. It's not going to last really long. That marble either wants to go further up and something's going to happen, or it's going to go back down to 1. It needs to do something. It cannot do this. This is you running away from a dog chasing you or a predator, a person trying to get you. You're going full blown, as explosive as you can be, running as fast as you can, or fighting as hard as you can. You can actually only sprint for 30 to 60 seconds, roughly. This is not a long time. You're actually full-blown fighting only for a few seconds, a few minutes, 30, 60 seconds, 90 seconds. Why boxing matches are pretty short, because to work that hard, you can't go that long. All right? So what happens here is you need energy. How much energy you have determines how long you can stay here. So stronger, healthier people with more Energetic charge, more battery capacity. Remember that little health of the cell, the electricity? People with more energetic charge will last longer. They will keep running or fighting longer. They'll have a better chance of survival, therefore. So what is determining this are these things inside of you called a mitochondria. This is a physical part of you. This isn't in your mind. This isn't stinking thinking. This isn't scripts. This isn't any of those things. This isn't confidence. This isn't that. This is a physical factor inside of you, okay? And you might have heard of these things as the powerhouse of the cell in your 8th grade biology class, all right? So what are some of the things that can damage mitochondria, which therefore drain energy? Nutrient deficiencies, just not having enough stuff to keep getting through there and working. Toxins can overload the mitochondria and break them. I can break them all day by putting poisons in there. A poor subconscious self-image can start to drain the system if you are constantly if you think you can't. That will start to eventually, because you're always kind of beating yourself up. So that's exhausting, right? If somebody's giving you, anybody is insulting you all day, it starts to wear you down. If you do it to yourself, you will start to just drain your own energy, right? Does that make sense? Because it's happening at a physical level, though, because it's draining the mitochondria of nutrients. It's actually taking real things away from you. Also age, right? So a 6-year-old should not be able to go as long as a 26-year-old. That should be pretty obvious. We just have physical structure and developmental states upon which we can handle things physically and psychologically. So here we are with that high stress. So what happens? This is what high stress looks like. Everything just gets bigger and everything's hotter. These are hot symptoms. State 1 is hot. State 2 is hotter. Panic, hyperventilation now. Heart is racing. We could be sweating, shaking, trembling. Overall body tension, the muscle is contracting. You could have lots of muscle pains, headaches, and things like this. There could be, instead of angry or irritable, it's rage. Instead of fear, it's terror. But we have maximum performance output happening here. Many people put themselves in this place, staying up doing an all-nighter for school or a project because they don't know how else to get things done unless they put themselves in a bad situation, and they can have this maximum burst of energy. Now, it wears them out and they have emotional issues around it, but this is how they've trained themselves to perform. You have very fast racing thoughts here. It doesn't last very long. I hope you can see how this makes sense, however. That is not a disorder. So if you're having a panic attack or you hyperventilate, you shake and sweat because you feel nervous all the time, it's because you're probably over aroused in a state 1 and state 2 stress state way too much, and you aren't doing anything to help your body dissipate this out of your nervous system. It's not a disorder. It makes total sense because you think a lion is about to try and kill you. So let's go out of that map and look at it from the calcium shell perspective. And what I want you to understand what kind of happens and why I care about somatic things like muscle and fascia things, and why talk therapy alone to me is failing everybody when it comes to healing trauma. So you have some type of stress, and that causes a chronic breakdown. Catabolism means breakdown, physical destruction of the body. That leads to chronic inflammation. That is leading to what we call you having a hard armor, being walled off emotionally and physically. So let's look at what that looks like. It's a real stress response. It's called a calcium shell. It leads to being rigid. It is the armor. So we have a stress, right, which can lead to arguments, some relationship with people, work, money, something, right? If this further need to feel safe, that's leading to a loss of calcium from the bone tissue. That's the catabolism. So calcium leaves the bones. Chronic psychological stress, chronic work stress, chronic, marital stress can lead to weak bones. Absolutely. Do you see how a calcium supplement won't help this? This is not what should be going on. So that calcium has to go somewhere. The calcium gets deposited in soft tissue, such as muscles, ligaments, arteries. This is the plaque of heart disease that goes on. Joints, fascia, all over the body. It's not fun. It doesn't feel good. Hard, tightening. People think they have arthritis. It's often just calcium deposition. Hard, not hard muscles can't get any relief. It's because of loss of calcium from the bone tissue. What does that lead to? This causes real physical changes in the body. It leads to an inability to connect with other people because we have a massive change in the physical and emotional bodies. We lead to have a lot of anxiety, racing mind, numbness, apathy, withdrawal. You're often defensive, have very rigid thinking because the body has become rigid. We end up with low serotonin, low dopamine, low oxytocin, and low endorphins. This does not feel good. You don't have a good outlook, and it is very hard to connect with people. So you're always sinking. That stress alone leads to then the relationship problems. If I just came along and lowered all of your neurotransmitters and made you feel bad, you would not talk to people the same. You wouldn't be kind and compassionate and connecting and affectionate. Therefore, you would have relationship stress. Do you see how it's a vicious cycle that just continues? The calcium shell is basically a person who cannot handle what's going on. And so to change the pH balance and stress of the system, the body's putting the calcium in there to try and make a correction, to try and keep things alkaline, keep it safe for the system. But it has this consequence of giving you hard on the outside, weak, soft, crumbling, falling apart on the inside. So it is like a knight's armor, much harder outside, really soft and vulnerable inside. And things eventually can start to fall apart. People can just fall apart from the inside, and we see it all the time. So let me put this all together, right? So this is how it looks when we do it. The stress is that, the catabolism is the bone tissue. This is called the calcium shell. These are the people in your practice who need, they like to say, I need to be massaged so hard, just rip it through. You could just strip it. I just wish I could have somebody just like rip my muscles apart. They want to be massaged so hard, and they only get relief during this extreme pressure, and there's no relief after. They only feel good while someone's rubbing on them, and do it harder. Yeah, just keep going, because they almost can feel nothing. So they have to have extreme pressure and lots of pain to even acknowledge it, to break through the amount of numbness, because they're so unable to feel emotions and handle any of that. So they've created this hard way of being very numb and very disconnected. Can be very lovely people. You're probably in love with many of these people, and they don't even know this is going on. But this is also why fascial, musculoskeletal, fascia issues, joint issues, and cardiovascular issues are very dominant in people that we would say have a lot of stress. This is super common to find in the parents of special needs children because they're living under tremendous chronic stress. This is also incredibly common to find in adult children of alcoholics who grew up in a home with alcoholic parents. All right, so now let's go back to how that's over. So that's what is happening in that state 2 stress. A little bit of it is happening in state 1, but in general, these people, you're going from 1 to 2 or living up in there. That's what's going on. Calcium shells can be getting developed. All right, so we talked about this as an energy crisis. That's what you need to understand. We were in that high stress, and we get to a point, we kept going up. Now the system says, I can't do it. Trauma is overwhelm. It is a physical overwhelm. It is a crisis in energy supply. When there is no more energy, the nervous system says, that's it. And now we drop the nervous system to protect itself. It goes into state 3, moderate trauma. Notice that state 3 is below the 0 in activation. We are now below the baseline energy level. This is really, really important. So in state 1 and 2, we have hot symptoms, anger, rage, things we call sweating, hot, feel hot, that kind of stuff. State 3 is different. This is like taking a cold, wet blanket and putting it on top of a person that is very warm, on fire with a fever. Okay. The fever is still there, but now we have something cold on top. So in state 3, there's this alternation of 1 and 2, state 1 and 2 symptoms. So we can have, we went from high energy, racing, hot, shaking to extremely tired, lethargic, sleepy, feeling very heavy. This is a very big, heavy, wet blanket on top of you. The posture completely collapses, muscle tone can change. We can go from tight tension to weakness. You can be very foggy and dissociative in the brain, very much unaware, can't remember things, very disoriented. You can feel, again, very heavyweight. You feel heavy, you feel cold, nausea, confusion, very, very common here. The thoughts are much slower. And here, of course, we can start thinking of helplessness. So this is where state 2, the lion was chasing that gazelle. Running and running. It got a hold of it. The lion took it by the neck to the ground. After about 10, 20 seconds of that, the gazelle knows. And that is state 3 trauma. Energy drops. There's no more fight. The muscles aren't contracting. The gazelle's not kicking and screaming. It goes limp. It says, okay, we have a problem. And to protect itself, the nervous system stops the fight. It knows there's no more energy. It's got to conserve everything it can in the hopes maybe something good might happen here, but it's looking like we're done. All right. Many people are walking around in state 3 moderate trauma. They are often diagnosed with bipolar disorder because anything that cycles between what's hot and cold, that is the hallmark triggers for a diagnosis of bipolar disorder. So then they're medicated here and never really addressed by a trauma expert as to what if it's actually this. And this is a physical problem that must be addressed with physical measures. So some things, again, we're going over, I said all these things. These are some of the contributing factors of the trauma crisis. Like you can go into trauma much faster if you never let yourself sleep or we have a bad situation. The most common nutrient issues that I see, and this might be part of the cell danger response theory in practice, I see low magnesium. It's involved in 80% of metabolic functions and 60% of the population is deficient at a bare minimum. I would say in my practice, 100% of every patient I've ever seen in practice is magnesium deficient. Again, I see people with mental issues mostly, so they're always stressed out. There's magnesium deficiency. The second most common thing I see is low zinc. One of the probably third is maybe the low B6 is probably before that. Then I see a lot of excessive copper. I have seen very little low copper, but I have seen it. Low DHA is huge. People not having enough of that very critical essential fatty acids. That's a part of the cell membranes. You will leak tremendous energy without having enough DHA. It is seafood and grass-fed beef are your highest sources. It's also in eggs. Low boron and vitamin K, those are two other big ones I see the most common in my practice, and definitely low sunlight because there is a full spectrum of wavelengths that people do not seem to understand is critical. Those are the things that I have to address when it comes to trauma to physically help someone move up the scale again. And that may be something, your talk therapist has never brought up any of those things to you. So what happens here? So let's say the lion has the gazelle on the ground. And it's like, okay, we did this, we dissociated a little bit. We're, maybe every now and then having a little bit of anxiety comes up, but in general, we're fogging out. Well, 5 of the lion friends arrive and they've created a circle. You kind of know then I'm a little bit, I'm going to have to tap out. I don't see any way out of this. This is beyond hopeless. And it's about to be done. And so the nervous system gives this incredible gift of complete dissociation of this break. And now we go into what's called severe trauma, and the body overwhelms you with chemicals to stop pain. You can feel even euphoric at this point. Vision changes. You can either have a very clouded vision or a very tunnel myopic vision. This is often complete dissociation, unreality. You can be floating, going somewhere else, seeing things, very blank, numb, just spaced out. Some people can feel very good. There are people walking around vacillating between state 3 and state 4, or in a state 4 severe trauma state. They actually think they're okay because there's no more symptoms. There's no state 1 and state 2. There's no hot, there's no cold. There's no anger, irritability, rage, fear, panic, muscle tension, contractions, cold, hot, nothing. It's numbness. It's gone. The pain is gone. We've just been flooded with painkillers and whatever. It's nature's final gift of before you're about to be devoured. I'm going to help you not have to feel or be aware of them. I'm just going to let you check out so you don't have to know what's about to come. Right? State 4 can kind of feel like state 0, sort of, to people. So they can walk around. Some of the diagnoses, the labels that people may be walking around with, that could be somebody, let's say, borderline personality disorder. To give you an example, dissociative identity disorder, DID. All right, so let's put a few things together so you can see the whole thing. What you need to remember is look at 3 and 4 are below that neutral line. I'm going to stack a little polyvagal on here. So when we're in the neutral and the 0, this is really parasympathetic social engagement. We're looking at, this is the calm aliveness. This is the aliveness of the 8, 9, 10 we're looking for, but it's not anxious and overreactive. It is calm, connected, grounded, present, secure, curious, and healthy. It's wonderful. It's not flatline. So it's a very beautiful aliveness, which many people may not even know what that is or remember it anymore. So the sympathetic state is up there 1 and 2, and we have the overwhelm point, and then suddenly the dorsal vague, in the polyvagal theory, the dorsal part of the vagus nerve takes over the freeze response, helps bring you down into the 3 and 4 to protect you. So we go from anxiety and restlessness and hypervigilance and irritation, insomnia, and wired and tired, to exhausted, heavy, depressed, chronic pain. Then the give up point, the last attempt to conserve any energy. So you can see why when somebody's in state 3 and state 4 trauma, while telling them, well, why can't you just get up and get it done? Why can't you just work out? Why can't you just set your alarm? Why don't you just start making your bed? That can be extraordinarily difficult for them because they are in a energy crisis. This is a physical, biological problem. So the first thing we need to do is add energy to the system. We have to increase the energetic capacity, the true electrical charge of the cells inside the body, to give it more capacity to move up above the 0. So this is what has to be understood. You have to go reverse. You have to go 4 to 3 to 2 to 1. So I have to start adding energy to go from 4 to 3. To go from 4 to 3, you need a trauma specialist to help you do this. To get from 3 to 2, most likely you're going to need a trauma therapist to help you get to do this. And you need physical support. If every trauma talk therapist, like a DBT therapist, an EMDR therapist, understood this, they would be working with somebody who could restore the biological mechanisms, the nutrients, the toxicity, and the mitochondrial health, and it would help them get their job done so much faster. You can do in 3 months what it would take them alone 2 years to do if you work together. I've been doing it for decades, working with talk therapists, and I've been told that same thing. I get done in 3 months working with you at the same time what took us 2 years before, because they don't understand the actual biology of trauma. They understand trauma, but they don't know how to fix it and go in reverse and actually help restore energy to the system. This is a nutrition, toxin, mitochondrial, fascia, musculoskeletal, calcium shell, nervous system issue that must be physically addressed. You can't do that through talk therapy. All right. So notice to go from 4 feels good. 4 is numb. 4 is no pain. To go from 4 to 3 does not feel good. To go from 3 to 2 does not feel good. You have to warn patients, it's going to get worse before it gets better. But you continuing to want to feel nothing to avoid the pain is keeping you from feeling any pleasure, connection, joy, much less bliss or ecstasy. All right. But the key takeaway is you have to add energy back into the system to go from trauma into high stress and then down into neutral. So to do that, you really have to understand that it's all about embodiment. We hear these words. This is why mindfulness has taken off. This is why techniques such as DBT are so important, because they're trying to bring awareness into the soma or the body. All right. This is where what we're going to do, we're going to move into the positive direction of the neuroplasticity of making something happen that we want by doing it repeatedly. So to integrate trauma, you need to add energy into the system. You cannot fully recover from trauma without addressing the mitochondria, the fascia, your nervous system, your sensations, and the self-image. So you can see why so many people are walking around unintegrated and unhealed, because they don't know this, much less where to go get help. So it's going to feel worse before it gets better. If you don't tell that to your clients, you're doing them a great disservice. And you must feel it to heal it. We have to feel things. You're going to have to feel the sadness, the fear, the grief, the anger, the rage in a safe, controlled environment. And you understand, like, these are just feelings. This is what it feels like. And then eventually, then we're going to move it out because it's been stuck. You're pretty much just moving out a process that was never allowed to complete itself. That's how we heal this. But I know it takes time and understanding to get it done. So association back into the body, to go from dissociation, to go from that 4 to that 3 up into that 2, it can be very uncomfortable for people. And this is why we do need trained professionals to help people feel safe and grounded. And it can take time, but it takes much less time if you actually address it from a mitochondrial and fascia and energy nutrient. You understand what you eat matters, how you sleep matters, how much sunlight you're getting is making a big difference, because that's free energy. All right. And the clinician tone must match the energy of the calcium shell. So if someone is very, very hard, this is where we will have to have some tough love and push back, right? We have to really use that. And you're going to have to learn, you're going to have to talk with each client very, very differently based on that calcium shell. You must match it. If it's real soft and supple, we can be supple. If you're not, I've got to match the armor. And that's just part of how it is to help you break through it yourself. All right. Some of the tools I like to use, I use Cellcore. I also use Quicksilver Scientific and a bunch of other things that we're trying to look at increasing energy in the system, healing mitochondria, moving lymph, helping the liver, kidney, gut, and the fascia. We must control the environment for the mitochondria. We use lots of drainage techniques, lymphatic things, and looking at gut health. We have to be pooping all the time, peeing properly, lymphatic flow. So things that we use, saunas and things like that, and lymphatic massage, castor oil packs. There's lots of things that are simple and even enjoyable, but they are a part of trauma recovery because they are part of the biology of trauma. Lots of nervous system regulation tools are becoming very popular. Somatic experience to me is the most important, and that's always going to be addressing the fascia. And then we look at subconscious imprinting, and the way you think about it as a clinician is going to make a big difference. But here's the superpower no one's talking about: play, fun, and pleasure. This gets ignored. We're so busy fighting death and disease, we don't promote or encourage aliveness. And there's no way to improve and increase aliveness more than through play. Watch any child and they'll teach you this. All right. So here's some specific Cellcore protocols. You can come into my detoxification protocols to learn about any of these things. Our trauma patients need 2 to 3 more months of just drainage, of like a pre-toxification, we call it. They need a lot of pre-tox because of the calcium shell. So if you notice that's you and you're like, you come to see us and you're like, that's why. So this is going to take longer, but you deserve it to take longer. Things you can do to protect your mitochondria. I go through all of these things with clients, but these are it's very popular to understand these concepts. I have a lot of these things in my store available. We teach courses on this that you can go into very deep. A 90-day course I teach called Serenity Science covers all of this type of mitochondrial health stuff. You have to remember that it's the environment that is breaking you down. You are not inherently broken. You are being poisoned with chemicals, with toxic light, with toxic radio frequencies, electromagnetics. The optimal environment is always nature. It will always heal you. The more time you can spend there, the faster you will recover from anything. Lots of drainage techniques. These are the things that I use a lot in practice. Again, we do this with patient care. We also do this in my Serenity Science course, and there's lots of courses out there. So these are some of the really important things. You can just kind of look at what we do. And if you didn't understand that all of these things are actually helping with trauma healing, and if you aren't doing some of these are simple ways to start improving your results with your talk therapist. Lots of nervous system regulation tools. This is what I specialize in. I use many, many devices, lots of neurofeedback, lots of vagus stem things. I am board certified in neurofeedback as well. We do heart rate variability. All of these things are just an idea. I also believe in the subconscious self-image or self-talk can be improved simply by picking the right clinician. By who you work with and their belief system will be imprinted. We can imprint our belief onto you. And if they don't think you can get better, then you're never going to think you're going to get better. So find somebody who carries such a tone and resonance that holds such a strong energy to understand you will get better and believes it deeply. That's who you want to work with. One of my favorite techniques that's in the somatic category is stress and trauma releasing exercises, or TRE. It's a very unique modality. I find it to be the most potent that I've ever seen. You combine this with DBT, let's say, or neurofeedback and your typical stress and trauma talk therapist, and you're going to have extraordinary results. It works on the fascia. It works through vibration. It regulates the nervous system. It hydrates. It detoxifies. It lets your body complete the process of the high stress or mild stress or even trauma. It lets you go through the process and heal it. The body's natural response to healing from stress and trauma is to shake. And we weren't allowed to do that. So if that lion were to get bored with the gazelle and the group is like, she's dead. It's no big deal. Let's go over here. Oh, look, what else is over there? A squirrel. And they leave. Even if that the gazelle was in a state 4, it's going to suddenly go, wait a minute. The nervous system says, holy smokes. They left? Associate her, get her back in her body, hurry up. And the way it gets it back in the body to be embodied, to feel things, is to start tremors. The nervous system will make the muscles start tremoring and shaking. It's going to vibrate. It's called neurogenic tremors, to make the muscles move, vibrate the fascia, move out all the stress chemicals, create massive sensation through feeling, to come back into the body, to associate, to go from 4 into 3, hot and cold, anxious, anxiety, mind is starting to race, still feeling numb, still laying on the ground, shaking, trembling, tremor, to suddenly, boom, we go into state 2 stress. The head pops up, it looks around, and it goes, oh my God, run. Gazelle jumps up, takes off like wildfire, because it's back in a state 2, high stress, and it's going to take off until it gets itself down into the 1, and then it's going to shake some more, and it's going to take itself down into a 0. That is what every mammal is designed to do. If you would let yourself shake and go through it when it happened, you would never hold on to trauma. We don't do that, however. We have a very big brain. There's only 2 animals that do this that we know of, humans and elephants. Elephants can stay traumatized because they have a very big prefrontal cortex. We have a lot of judgment on the shaking. We think it's crazy. We think we shouldn't do it. We stop it. So all I'm trying to do is help you find techniques that help you finish a process that you were born to do. It is a normal biological healing mechanism that you were interrupted from doing at some point, and now you'll be allowed to complete it. This, again, is a part of the certainty of the provider, and also imagination is important. This is critical. I think I offer an entire visualization course where I go over this. It's a very easy 7-day take yourself through, because I think visualization is one of the most potent and underutilized healing modalities, and it's completely free once you know how to do it. If you know how to do it well, do it. If you don't, take my course. It's really good. But the key is imagination. Imagination is the key to the placebo healing effect. We understand that I can just tell you something is going to be a miracle cure for you, and you're going to believe it. If you believe it, your body will just heal it. Here's a sugar pill. This is the greatest cure of everything we've ever found. We have a 100% cure rate. When people take this in 3 days, the whole disease is gone. People will take that sugar pill, and then the thing will be gone. They made it so. Why? Through the power of imagination. Imagination is critical in play. Children can do it amazingly. They can come up with all kinds of stuff. So what you're doing through imagination is playing in your mind's eye to create the future version of yourself that you desire to become. So if you're sick, you're anxious or scared or feel weak or like a coward, you need to use your mind, play around, and have an imagination and create yourself and who you want to be. Create the avatar of how you want to be and start using visualization by changing the reticular activating system part of your brain to finally see the patterns of people, pathways, and solutions you never saw before. Another modality I love is Psych K. I also love hypnosis and alpha theta deep states neurofeedback. These are used routinely in my practice. My patients go through these things, and this is how we get results that other people have never gotten before, because I don't ignore this part of it either. So here's the superpower no one's talking about, though. We're so focused on keeping away death and disease, we don't say, well, let's focus on the light. Where is the solution? Play. This is the magic. All right. So fun, play, joy, flow state. Both men and women enjoy this. But 80% of all autoimmune diagnoses are women, right? And so play, fun, and pleasure is really especially important for women. They typically have to manage the children's schedules, everything, the illness. They're kind of 24/7 on duty, and end up with more of these diagnoses because they'll take on more things and think they're not allowed to play. They have to grow up faster often. They have to take over for things as children, and often have some guilt complexes and consider themselves selfish for taking time for themselves, right? So this is a big part of what I have to try and do is reframe this concept. You need to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you can take care of anybody else. So what you need to remember, this is all a part of it, is that your biological health is inseparable from your psychological function and your social relationships. Often when women become mothers, they become very isolated suddenly. They don't have community, they're checked out of things, or don't do the same things the way, they're exhausted. Their social relationships can change dramatically. We live in a very isolated type of environment now. We don't have community the same. We don't have our mothers and grandmothers helping take care of us. We don't have the tribe like we used to with the modern culture. It can make people feel very alone, and play is lacking. And the first thing someone does if they get a diagnosis of an illness, play, fun, pleasure is thrown out. They just, that to them, and fighting the disease and doctor's appointments and supplements and drugs and protocols and therapies become their entire life. None of that is fun. So I want to suggest that pleasure is what heals trauma. And it also heals more. It is healing physical illness. Pleasure. We are not leveraging pleasure. We are not talking about pleasure. It does these things, counteracts negative associations of situations, people, places, and things. It helps build positive relationships with your own body, which is, again, coming back to embodiment, feeling safe to feel things. It enhances emotional resilience. We need that because the higher your resilience, the less you'll go into trauma. And it also encourages self-compassion. Pleasure increases your ability to have compassion for yourself. I think this is why pickleball is becoming so popular, because it's fun and it's helping people heal so many things they didn't even know that were going on. Prioritizing experiencing pleasure is truly an ultimate act of self-care, self-kindness, and self-love. So let us go into what is pleasure. I love this definition. It is an awakening force, a vibrational resonance that shakes the body and heart open. Notice the word shakes. Does it remind us of the tremors and how we heal? And side note, TRE, which I am a certified TRE practitioner. I do offer TRE in my practice through me and other clinicians in private and group, online and in person. It is pleasurable. It feels good. Don't be scared by the word trauma release. It really should be pleasure release. Here's another definition that I really, really love. Pleasure. It vibrates. Notice that word again, vibration, shake. Remember, did I talk about vibration and sound and light already? Sound is a vibration, you guys, right? It vibrates our core and produces an exquisite mental, physical, and emotional bliss. It brings movement, life, and hope. The ultimate manifestation of eros, or pleasure, is the connection with the force of creation. Eros, or pleasure, transforms us from weak to powerful, hard to soft, rigid to flexible. It raises our consciousness to that higher level we feel when we connect with the Creator through prayer, or the connection with nature we feel as we walk by the sea. I have yet to be able to read that without starting to cry. Notice you'll hear TRE in there. You'll hear the calcium shell in there. You'll see my aliveness scale in there. All right. There it is. So where are we? And what is the opposite of death? What did you guess it was? Did you put it down in the comments? Go ahead. Use your intuition. Practice. What do you think is the opposite of death? You're not going to be right or wrong. It doesn't matter. Practice intuition. What is it? So remember, we had the same thing. We're trying to help people move up the scale. I don't believe just because you have a terminal diagnosis, you're meant to die. Let's go after this and address it. Let's start where we need to help you build up capacity, electrical charge. So we move up. We all have seen, I've seen patients in every one of these categories. Here's the punchline. And this is a different talk. I do give talks and lectures on this. You can come see some of them in person. I don't do them online yet. But for me, the opposite of death is the orgasm. It is not life, because all life came from the orgasm. And the orgasm is always potent pleasure. So let's look at this, a reminder of where this was again. And you can sit with that punchline. That is where most of my talks are going in my career, and we will do much more on those. But this is where we're at, right? 4 to 3 to 2 to 1. We have hot symptoms in the 1 and 2, cold symptoms in the bottom, but it is an energy crisis. So, take a picture of how this looks. Next time you're going through something, remember that this is where you are. The nervous system is just a marble, and it's got to move through here. And what can you do to support where you are? One, you cannot shame yourself for being where you are. This is a biological issue. Do you need more sleep, more nutrition? Do you need to stop with the toxic poisoning? Do we understand why eating junk food, living on a Starbucks diet is going to never help somebody get over their chronic depression, their hopelessness, their suicidal thinking? It's right in front of you, because you're never going to add energy to the system with that type of diet. Why is the carnivore diet so potent in helping people? Because it's the most nutrient-dense diet in the world with the least amount of toxins. And it starts to heal this right here, and they don't even know why it's doing it. So this is where I'm going with other lectures, just to give you a kind of a sneak peek into it. I also look at the pleasure scale. So I say, let's look at your activities in life, because I understand for some people it's really hard. They're living in this very low place, and the idea of a peak orgasm is like outrageous to them. So where can we start? When somebody's been fighting chronic Lyme for 10 years, or breast cancer for 5 years, or has ALS. They haven't had an orgasm in 10, 20 years sometimes. They've just given that part of their bodies away. I will be lecturing on how an orgasm is actually a powerful healer for the physical body. And it's a tool that isn't being used properly. I'll bring the PowerPoints and the science and explain that in another lecture. When I have it done, it'll be in the description. But this is where we have to teach people to, where are you? And look at every activity. Like, to me, if, going to pickleball, isn't bringing you to a 6, 7, 8, 9, you shouldn't be going. If going to the book club or the game night, you feel a level of 3 or 4 every time, you should quit. We want more pleasure than that in the things we're doing in our life. If your job is at a pleasure scale of 2 to 3, 4 every day, well, where do you think your aliveness is eventually going to be? Right? So the 9 and 8, 9, 10, they're giving you energy. They're giving you life. And what has happened in our world is we've all become very tolerant of pain and suffering. And we're very intolerant of pleasure. And you're going to have to all kind of learn how to tolerate pleasure. Many people don't feel they deserve to feel good. So this is a practice, and this comes with time. And we slowly go over here. And I try to get people to, if I can get them walking around at 4, 5, 6 most of the time, we're doing pretty good in today's culture. then our masters are going much higher. Okay. So here's the conclusion. I just want to go over, we went over the biology of trauma, the cell danger response, calcium shell theory, and basically saying that trauma is an energy crisis. It is a physical problem. And the problem results in there's low energy. That came from a number of reasons to get energy back in the system, but that's what it's not just this mind thought issue. Integration of the trauma to heal it requires deep embodiment of the senses. You must feel things physically. All senses, I'll have you know, connect directly to the pleasure centers of the brain. So every sensation you feel is designed to give you pleasure. Every smell is designed to bring you pleasure. Sights, sounds, pressure, touch, all designed to make you feel good. That's the point of them, because that's where they go. And all aliveness and life came from an orgasm. I think that is the opposite of death. Pleasure is a healing superpower. So where can you start to seek out ways you can bring more pleasure into your life? That could be the place setting, how you make dinner. Can you make it beautiful? Can you buy yourself flowers? Can you clean up your bedroom? Can you make your bed so every time you walk in, you feel like it looks like a hotel? That is pleasure. Again, if you liked what you heard, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.